Hello, welcome to Beyond the Horizon. I am your host, Tabea Zoe, and today I am joined by Caro Marx for a conversation on timeline jumps. Caro Marx is a channel and a medium, and she guides you in that moment where you feel like your reality doesn't fit you anymore. You have outgrown everything in your life and you know something needs to change. This is the moment where her soul alignment sessions guide you into a timeline jump. And in this conversation, you will immediately notice how deep the wisdom is that she holds. Because the moment she starts to answer, even in the first couple of minutes, how do you perceive the shift in our consciousness? She is just giving it to you straight and telling you everything that you need to know. It was incredible to talk to her, to have this conversation, a quick back and forth. And I'm still beaming from this energy that we generated together. So I'm so excited for you to listen to this conversation all about timeline jumping, timelines in general, how we connect to time, this moment right now, what it needs to change your reality, what it means to open a portal or to go with the cycles of life, and so much more. Everything, every nuance that you need to know when it comes to identity and shifting your reality through a jump in time. Without further ado, let's get into this episode. Before we begin, I want to ask you 3 questions. I will first say all 3 and then you can slowly answer and get into the vibe. The first one is, how do you perceive the shift in our consciousness? The second one is, how do you perceive where we are headed? So the future. And what do you want our future to be?
I love the questions. First of all, also hello and thank you for having me. I'm super excited. And yeah, I would say let's dive right into the first question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the first was, how do I perceive the consciousness shift right now?
Yeah, the shift that is happening.
It's a good question. I can already feel like a lot of energy. For sure, a lot of moving collectively, which is a good thing. A lot of things are crumbling. And I feel like that a lot of things are crumbling and things like actually seem like a total shit show right now out in the world, like is for me the biggest sign that we are finally moving into this area where we are supposed to be, where we are becoming sovereign as human beings, as a collective on this earth. And for me, it also has a touch of, or not just a touch of, taste in general is more like we are finally taking back this planet, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So we are finally stepping into the power of consciously creating the world that we want to live on, and not just blindly following old, outdated structures and rules, but really asking ourselves, like, what do I really actually think is true? What do I feel like in my bones, in my soul? With this, of course, also on an individual level, like the mass awakening that is happening. Everybody learning to trust themselves again, questioning things, stepping into their own power, basically. And yeah, just finding their place in this world they were meant to take.
I'm so curious, how long have you felt that shift happening? So for you in your own experience, how long have you felt like we are in a shift or we are about to head into a shift? And also as a channel and a medium, do you feel like it is heightening or we are at a point of a peak point of the shift? Or do you feel like it will be like this for a long time? Or how do you feel it?
So yeah, since when did I feel this shift? Sometimes I feel for me this is hard to answer because like I have the strong innate belief that I was born into this time, like to accompany human beings during this shift. So I really can feel like in my bones and in my DNA that like the shift was going on already, basically. And all of us were born into this shift right now. It is just now that it is more visible, more tangible, because all the big structures that were guiding us and giving us basically the rules that we should follow as a collective are crumbling now. And this is why it also seems so intense. But it was the same intensity always. But now it really gets to the level where people feel like, am I still safe in my life right now? Are we as human beings are still safe on this planet with all the wars going on? But the shift actually was always continuously the same. It is now just like coming more and more to the surface. And also we as human beings, as a collective, are getting more and more aware of things. But the same shit was going on, sorry for the word, was going on since forever, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, so interesting. So you would say it is continuous and not really with peaks, or right now not a peak, but it has been like that forever.
Yes, it was building up for sure. Like it is building up for sure. Like there is a strong level of intensity happening, because also there are certain energetic forces that are at war that we are not seeing. Of course, we as intuitives, channelers, and mediums, we see and we know about this, we feel this, we hear this. And the level of intensity for sure increases, because it's just like it's a war basically going on in the energetic realm. And this is why also like, we are becoming stronger, we are becoming more aware, taking back our place, taking back our planet, taking our rightful place. And of course, other forces that were trying to keep us small, to keep us in structures that are not serving us, also pushing harder, of course.
Yeah.
So, and for sure, right now, I feel it is kind of a peak in terms of it's a turning point.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, the tables have already turned. We've already taken back this planet. Like we already have the upper hand. Energetically, I feel this, but it still has to come into manifestation into the 3D world.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel the same way. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you perceive where we are headed? The second question. So what do you see in our future?
I love this question, actually. I see a lot of good things happening. Of course, like there is like this golden age coming, a lot of like, I don't know, ancient traditions also are talking about. And I think it's an honor also to be alive at this time and like being part of this big shift, creating it, coming together as a collective, helping each other grow through this process. And like I see a massive shift happening in all areas of life you can imagine. And most importantly, the big ones. It's like the financial system for sure. It's going to be so much better in the future, so much more abundance and wealth for everyone on this planet. I see a big shift in the health system, like healthcare, health and healing in general, and the education system is like really, really important. Like these for me are the major shifts that are going to happen. And also, again, it can be a scary moment because a lot of people will feel like, oh my God, what is going on? Everything is breaking down. Nothing is working anymore. But it's a good thing, actually, because we have to take those structures down to build something new. And this is also what I love to empower other souls is like, let's take our part also in taking systems down. Like it's our responsibility to take those systems down that we can create something new. And also like having this vision and this long-term side of where do we want to move to? Like, what is it that we want to create? And yeah, so I really see a lot of good things, a lot of more freedom. Freedom is the word that I'm getting most of the time. A lot of wealth, a lot of abundance, like longer lifespans for people in general. And what I'm also getting really important is like a completely different way of birthing, like a completely different way of bringing souls into this planet, and a completely different way of leaving this planet in the process of dying.
I love it. And I'm so curious because, it can be very unsettling for a lot of people. And you perceive so much. So do you feel afraid?
No, not at all. And I actually, like, for me, it's like I'm this kind of person when those things are happening, like it fuels me. Like it really kick starts this fire within me, within my soul, like this innate rebel and warrior energy that I'm having. And I feel like this is exactly why I'm here. For me, like, it's an acceleration of energy, and it really brings me more into my power, more into my purpose of guiding people, of, seeing more clearly, helping in transitioning during these processes, because it's a lot of transition for many people. Yeah. Because like everything is changing. Every little structure in our life is changing right now. Like it starts with ourselves, how we see ourselves in the mirror, how we see the world, how we see our relationships, how we relate to how we live our day-to-day life. And then, also all the big structures I was talking about. So no, I'm not afraid. I'm actually really excited.
Yeah, me too. And so often when I talk about this, I am met with so much fear. But when I ask people, are you really afraid? and they really like feel into it, they also often say, no, actually not. But there are so many narratives of fear around this that we are also fed a little bit, you know, where I think it's so important to really ask yourself, am I really afraid? What do I feel about the changes? Instead of just going with what everybody is saying, because then we will be stuck in the old way, in the old paradigm.
And I feel also, just like a little add to that, also our souls, they already know, like they know what is coming, and they know like something much better is waiting. Like we have no idea what like really nice things are coming and manifesting, you know, acknowledging like the situation we are in right now and the systems we have been in like our whole life. This is the thing we should be afraid of, actually. Yeah. This is the thing we should be afraid of, not the thing that is coming, that we as a human collective are creating. So, and again, it brings me to this, like, you know, taking our space and taking the systems down and creating something new that we don't have to be afraid of anymore, where we all are safe, where we all are living like a secure life as we deserve.
And I feel like you already answered the third question, what do you want our future to be? But maybe you have something that you are very passionate about in that future that you really want to create as we do collectively.
So for me, a big thing is freedom. Like my soul like is designed to create freedom and to help other human beings to have this element of freedom and this strong feeling of freedom in their life, being in charge of their life. So yeah, the thing that I want to create is I want to push everyone onto their highest timeline where they can be free, where they can live out the life they were meant to be as a soul when they contracted to come onto Earth, because there is a highest timeline available for everyone. But because of all the outer circumstances and contractions we were birthed into, it is of course hard to come into this highest timeline. And for some it's easier, for some it's more difficult, which is neither is bad or good. But like my mission is to kick everyone into their highest timeline, because I strongly believe when everyone is individually living their highest timeline, also we as a collective start finally moving into the highest timeline.
Absolutely. Here we already are within the topic of timelines and how our timelines create the future and everything. This is the topic for this episode. So before we like talk about all of the nuances, maybe you want to explain a little bit how you perceive timelines, what timelines really are, and what the highest timeline actually feels like.
I love this question. So you get timeline, actually sometimes the word is super big, but it's actually super easy. You can imagine from every point in time, like the situation you're standing in right now, the now moment, you have multiple infinite possibilities to make a decision. And each decision needs a specific emotion that you have to like live inside your body to make a certain decision. And based off of the emotion that you're holding in this present moment in your body, and making a decision based off of this emotion brings you to a certain timeline. And there are lower timelines and there are higher timelines. And based of the, let's say, the height of the frequency of your emotion. So you can have lower emotions, as we say here on in human terms, and you can have higher emotions, but in general, it's just energy. Yeah. But when you are making a decision based on a lower emotion, on a lower frequency, it brings you more into a lower timeline. And nothing is bad with that, because this then is the thing that is serving you right now in this moment. But if you want to move differently, if you want to create a different life, you have to learn to take charge of your emotions. You have to learn how to read and detect your own emotions, how to navigate those, and also how to sit with those emotions, and sometimes also pause making a decision, not reacting based off of an emotion, but waiting until you are in the state to make the highest possible choice for yourself. And when you're making the highest possible choice based on a feeling, for example, love and excitement, it automatically pushes you into a higher timeline. So this is basically how timelines work. You have those individually for your life, and it's normal sometimes that it fluctuates, and it is not as easy as people think, oh, I'm losing my highest timeline. Because a lot of my clients are asking me, oh, now I've done this, and am I not on my highest timeline anymore? Did I do something wrong? But actually a timeline is also more a long-term thing, and not really like something that fluctuates each moment, but each moment you have a new timeline accessible to you.
Yeah.
So I hope this was understandable. And also for the collective, it's the same principle. And we as a collective, how we move, how we make decisions brings us collectively into different timelines. And like when I tune into the current like situations, what the timelines are, what I'm seeing is that we're really on a good and one of the highest timelines for the human collective. And it wasn't always like this, but a lot of like, there was a mass awakening happening over the last years, like for a long time, but also with the release of the Epstein files, like again, a mass awakening happening. And those mass awakenings cause friction in our current reality, in our current timeline. And people really start to see like, something is not right. They're getting irritated. They're resenting the current systems, the current reality. And this is what makes the systems crumble. And this is when we are pushing into our higher timelines and moving into our timelines. And this is what we are currently doing. So also because you ask, like, am I afraid? Or you're asking your friends or your clients if they are afraid. This is actually a sign that we are moving into the higher timeline. So it is always a good thing when those crazy things around us are happening, if you see it from a timeline perspective. Of course, individually, like, it is hard and there's a lot of loss and a lot of people, like souls, leaving this planet because of this. But yeah, it's all like part of the bigger picture and the process of living the highest destiny we can create on Earth.
So I have so many thoughts already on that, because it's so different. What you are describing is so different than what a lot of content is out there about, like timeline jumping, where you imagine something and it's kind of like this artificial way of bringing about the emotion when it's not really there. And what you are describing is, it is an emotional process actually to get to that point. And it's also part of it to go through the lower emotions, to release them and so on, to alchemize them, to even be able to reach that high. And I think that's so important. And even with things that are crumbling and, you know, becoming aware of what doesn't work anymore in our system and in our culture right now, I think to combine the two, you know, we need to become aware and irritated with the reality, but then also we need to go through the emotional process collectively to be able to then choose a higher timeline as well. You know, when we get stuck in that moment of irritation, that is where we kind of lose the momentum that is actually putting us into something else. And
yes.
And I love this thing of in every single moment, a new timeline is available. And this is something that I would say every moment is the portal to the realm of potential. You know, we can open the door to potential in every single moment. And it's our decision in the moment to be so present in the now that we can not only influence the future, but also the past. It's like we are recalibrating our whole construct of time, basically, when we really come into the present moment, and then from that point on tap into the potential realm. So yeah, I love this, because it's not only about the future, it's also about how we perceive the past, because every time that we choose a different or a higher timeline and a different future, we also change how we perceive the path that we have taken up until this point. It changes. And I think the foundation of all of this is like, time is an illusion. So I think to really come back, like, only this moment is real. This is the moment where we have the choice, and all our power is like right here, right now. And everything else is something that we can influence from this point on.
Yeah, I love everything you said. Like, I'm underlining everything. And like, I also have so much thoughts. Like, the first thing you said, like trying to trick your way into a timeline shift by just like visualizing and manifesting. It's not completely wrong. There is an element to it, which of course is part of the process of quantum leaping and timeline jumping. But what is important is that, first of all, the vision you are having is already your future self giving you hints of what is your potential, where is your destiny, where does your highest timeline potential lie, and in which direction does it go. But as you said, you have to master your emotion to get to this state, because through our upbringing, from our parents and our peers around us, we gained a lot of conditionings. And conditionings energetically, if you see it energetically, it's a code. It's an energetic code. And those codes need recalibration. You cannot use your own old code, like basically also your old nervous system, if we want to say it like this, to move into a new reality that is not matching your inner state. So we have to recalibrate those codes, the nervous system, which is an energetic work that has to be done, alchemizing and transmuting of emotions. Like it really is an internal process. And yeah, it is the mastering of self, basically. And when this is in line, and this is aligned with the way you want to go, the highest timeline you are envisioning, manifesting, then it works.
Yeah.
But if you are not doing the work before this recalibration process, what is happening then? You might see like little tiny things manifesting into your reality of your highest timeline, but then it's collapsing again because your internal state is still stuck in the old way of living, basically. And I think this is something that should be taught in schools in the future. Or in kindergarten even.
For me, I feel like there are two ways to go about this. And one way that I love to use is to go with the cycles and to just allow the natural stream of energy in my life to just lead me. And then there are moments when I, for myself, decide this is a portal moment. And one portal moment that I really chose for myself was 11/11 last year. Why I say I chose this moment is because, there are these moments, where everybody's saying like, this is like the Lion's Gate. This is so many different moments in time where the numerology says something and everybody says like, this is the portal, this is the portal. And on one hand, I often feel these collective shifts happening on those points because collectively we focus in on that moment. So it has a lot of power to use those moments as well. But at the same time, it is a choice to make it a portal moment. And I would say even months leading up to 11/11, I already felt it. Like already in September, I felt like it's coming. But there still needed to happen something for me to feel like this is the moment. And then I chose it. And on that day, I did a lot of like meditations to really get into this like high vibe or to even like really connect to my higher self and so on. But actually the funny thing is that afterwards, what changed really was how I perceived my reality. It wasn't that suddenly things actually changed, because what I realized after that moment was that the prior month was one of my highest earning months ever. And I didn't even realize, in October, I didn't even realize. But then after that portal moment, suddenly I was like, oh my God, what is happening? Actually, my reality has already been different, but I didn't notice it before. And after this intentional moment of now things are changing, I just suddenly perceived so many things differently. And also my own limitations suddenly just fell away, not because they actually did, but just something changed in my view. So for me, that like, maybe it was a timeline jump, maybe it was just a portal I opened up for realization, but the change wasn't, what you would expect. So how do you feel like timeline jumps are showing up? And what do you feel about these two ways of going about things, like going with more of the natural cycles or divine timing and just going with the flow of things and choosing your moment of change?
I think I can answer both questions in one, because I think it goes perfectly hand in hand, because I'm a strong believer of divine timing, not just collectively or for events happening, but also for our soul's evolution, for our soul's growth. It is not every day like a sleigh day and the day, for timeline jumping and the biggest transitions. But of course, we have the potential to choose every day to make it a portal day. But also we have to learn, and as souls in our evolution, that there are different phases. Like as nature has cycles, we also have those innate cycles in our soul, encoded in our soul. Also, if we look at astrology and the placements we are born under, they are also, of course, influencing us and giving us a lot of energetic guidance, how we move through our life. So it is really important, I feel, to know about the current circumstance. For example, which cycle am I in right now? Is it for me the time to jump and go out there? Or is it for me right now the time to assess like what is not fitting anymore in my life? Like, why do I feel like everything suddenly is boring and dull? And why are those conversations are not exciting anymore? And this is sometimes, or most of the time, also the point where people think, am I depressed? Like, is something not right with me? I don't feel good. Like, maybe also they're getting health problems and stuff like this. And those are already like the first signs you are outgrowing your life. And outgrowing your life is also a phase of doing a timeline jump. It is basically like the preparation for a timeline jump. You first have to outgrow something. As we talked before, you have to collapse something. You have to take systems down also in your day-to-day life, and then move and make a decision. When you feel this day, today I have to make this decision. Everything is clear. And what is then happening when you make a decision, everything starts aligning again and starts to calm down. Like everything feels all of a sudden super calm. Everything makes sense again. Everything clicks again. And then this is the moment actually you've done already the timeline jump. It is not also like, I'm the strong believer. It is not this, oh, I'm so excited. Yes, the highest level timeline jump. Actually, like the timeline jump makes your nervous system feel calm. You're aligned, you're calm, and you feel safe in your reality that you created for yourself, because it is aligned again with yourself. And when this is happening, then you've already jumped timelines. So, you know, when you see it like this, like when you see the cycle behind it, is actually also not a rocket science. It's pretty easy to make. But the crucial point is to make a decision. Like, are you deciding when you feel nothing fits? Or are you trying to make your old life work again? And when you're trying to make your old life work again, this is when you always collapse your highest timeline or the timeline you want to move into. And then you can manifest like every day, every night, 24/7, but nothing is manifesting because you are not deciding, because we are in charge and we have to become sovereign for our day-to-day life decisions. And what is like really helpful with that in that moment is also the things I'm working with, giving light code transmission for recalibrating the nervous system, as we talked before, like, you know, getting rid of all those old conditioning, of those old codes, also learning about them. Most of the people are not really aware even on what codes are they running on. And what I really can do really well in my work is like seeing those patterns, not just individually, but also collectively, like what is the current pattern they're running on, which is basically outdated, which is stopping the timeline jump, or which is delaying it. And what is also happening when we are not deciding in this moment where we are called to make a decision, it's kind of that the crossroads point is dissolving.
Yeah.
Like, it is not waiting forever for us to decide. At one point, the opportunity is gone. Then again, you are stuck in the same loop until you are coming to this decision point again. But then the decision point is even worse. Your reality is even worse. Your relationships are even more fucked up. Your job is even more shitty. Your health is declining completely. Like, you know, it's getting worse and worse and worse the more we delay. So I really love to encourage people to really just make a decision. And there is never a right or wrong, but the most important point is dynamics and movements in this crucial point in time, which is calling you to move in whatever direction. Most of the time, the direction does not even matter. Of course, there is like different outcomes when you decide this or that. But as long as you're moving and taking the decision, you're always getting where you're supposed to be. The most like dangerous thing we can do as human beings is not deciding and staying stuck and repeating those same old loops over and over again.
Absolutely. Because when you don't decide, you give up your power. You know, you play a victim where you are no victim, and you stay stuck. And I think it's so interesting because the self-assessment that you talk about a lot is, I think, the foundation to even notice those points. So my fiance, for example, he often has similar patterns coming up like every couple of months, where he is in similar situations. And I always tell him, like, this happened 2 months ago. This happened 4 months ago. You know, I see the pattern for you. You need to decide something else, or you need to be more radical. And I love, like, I'm a very radical person. You know, when I decide, I often choose like a very radical way of doing things, and my clients are the same way. And often when we are so decisive, and we also can be radical in the responsibility that we take on for the creation of our own life, a lot of people maybe think like, oh, that's like too much or too harsh and stuff like that. But actually, often it is needed to really shift things, because when you are like, there's often this wobbly in between, you have a decision and you know what like the truth of it is, in your heart, and then you kind of compromise, and then you get kind of wobbly and no, I'm a nice girl and kind of take back that power that you actually have in the decision, and then you make a compromise where even other people don't even know that you have made a compromise and think this is your truth. And then it's, you always get like, it's kind of like you have your alignment and you always take one step like to the side and you kind of lose your alignment, even in the smallest, tiniest decisions where you don't stick with your truth, even if it's radical. So I think the self-assessment to really notice your own patterns and so on is so important, to notice where you are stuck in the same cycle and you haven't made not the right decision, but you haven't made the decision that is actually true for you. Because as you said, everything is something that you need to learn. But what I feel is that when we really come from our truth and in our own alignment, this is the right choice. And there's no wobbling and no nothing like that.
No, the truth, like we have it within us, like our soul knows and is trying to guide us. And another symptom, what is also happening when we delay the decision, we start to overthink decisions that are not really important. Then we start to micromanage every little detail in our life, just not to think about the elephant in the room, the big decisions that we just have to make, that we already know the answer to. And this is like, it just makes everything more complicated and more complicated. I feel like making those decisions is also not that hard, actually. As you said, like sometimes taking the most radical decision is already our truth. And I think it's true. Like we already know. And when we think, oh, is this maybe too much? What do other people think when I'm doing it? Then it's always the right decision, I feel. Like this one thing that seems a little bit outrageous for your old nervous system and for your old reality is exactly what brings you to a next level, to unlock this new version of yourself. And it's always a good sign when people around you start not relating to you anymore, when they are not understanding you, when they cannot keep up with you, when they really have no fucking clue what you're doing. And they're like, okay, what is wrong with you? Why are you different? This is a good sign, actually. And we have to learn also and train our nervous system to be okay with that people are falling away in our life, that like things are falling away, like that our reality is constantly shifting, and we have to stop like holding ourselves like in this comfort zone that we love so much as human beings. Like it is like this tiny little balance act of being safe nervous system wise and just being in a comfort zone. And a lot of people intermix those. They think actually they are safe and everything is perfect, but they are really in a big fat comfort zone and not realizing it, and postponing decisions and making life hard on themselves. And I feel like what I want to do with my work is empower people to move forward, because our soul always knows every answer. And if we just follow this guidance, everything could be so smooth and exciting and just different. And I think and I also observe this in my clients, everybody wants different, but nobody wants to decide,
I also want to talk about maybe like the next level of timeline jumping, because, at some point, a lot has fallen away, or that is my experience. And what I'm witnessing more and more is that when you have gone through a lot of changes, a lot of development at the beginning, people fall away, and maybe it continues on happening. And for me, it also was in the beginning, a lot of old people fell away that were in my life forever. And then there was like a new cycle of people, like people coming in for 1 year, and then I moved on. And now I feel I'm at a point where actually the shifts in my life, I've transformed my whole life over the past 4 years. not only in like the external circumstances. I moved to a different country. I changed my business. I found the love of my life. I met new people that are really soul aligned and so on. Like so many things happening in my life, more abundance, more joy, living in the moment and so on. Now I feel like the timeline shifts aren't as much about like things like the old reality doesn't fit anymore. It feels like I'm stuck in a comfort zone because I shift more rapidly than that. And now a lot of people that are in my life are people who also rapidly shift, who also like expand and grow and change their lives. And we can stay connected because we are all evolving in the same frequency and I don't want to say timeline because it's not the same timeline, but it's like the same speed. Even if we evolve a little bit differently and change our reality in a different way, we still have the same core understanding of we create our own reality and we are in our own alignment. And I just want to say that because even if you are at the point that you have wished for all your life, you still continue on growing and you still find yourself in a comfort zone. And maybe then the decisions aren't really like the points of changing the timeline aren't about like leaving behind people in your life, but actually reconnecting with people or changing the dynamic to your family so you can talk to them again, or like just having these nuances of a shift in your internal stance and how you stand in yourself to perceive reality differently, to act differently without even changing your external circumstances. It gets to change. And even as we grow and evolve in different levels and, it continues on being the same pattern. It continues on being the same thing. And the more self-aware you stay, the more like fluid or like it becomes such a fluid thing. You just go with it all of the time. That's my experience and what I witness and the people around me. It's like this different level of not everything needs to crumble for you to rebuild something or build something new instead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really love that perspective. And also, like, I want to add to the relationship part because this is also what I'm observing in my life. The more work you've done already, it's basically like stripping away layers of layers of layers of conditioning, of like codes that are not your own, like that are like foreign to your soul, basically, that were put onto you like during the upbringing. And the more we strip those layers away and getting to our own essence, to our like true self, and allowing also our soul's essence to come out and really like shine like bright like diamonds as we are supposed to be, then also like the people that are on the same frequency and that are meant to be with us and to meant to be at our side through our life, then only those people also can see us. But what is also happening with those friendships that are not so aligned for life, they are still aligned and they have a point. Like for a certain amount of times in our life, they were aligned exactly for the version of ourselves that we allowed the world to see. And the more we allow to take up space in this world for ourselves and our like own being, and sharing our soul's gifts, our wisdom, then also exactly those relationships start coming into our life. And I think this is such a beautiful process when this is happening. I also loved how you described that it is not exactly the same timeline, but it's the same speed we are moving through life with. And this I really love because I feel, I just feel the same. And then it accelerates also our own processes when the people around us moving in the same speed. And also like collectively, it has such ripple effects. The frequency like we are radiating outwards just by having those soul aligned friendships.
Absolutely. And I think for so many people, and maybe you as you listen also resonate with that, feel like as they are changing, they are like kind of the tower moment in other people's lives. Like they bring about the change and people cannot hide anymore and suddenly they need to change as well and everything for them falls apart. And then as you grow, you are walking with other tower moments as well. The people around you are also the same way, where you inspire each other to change, to grow, to evolve, and so on. So even if it feels maybe lonely when your old comfort zone, your old identity, your old reality doesn't fit you anymore, know that there's a future for you where you are not alone, and like you are going through it, so many other people are awakening as well and going through it as well. One thing that I love that you said in a previous call was that identity is actually a matrix thing. and and I think it perfectly fits right now as you talk about like really listening to your soul essence and you know the truth of you. So maybe you just want to expand a little bit what you think about the word identity and why it still keeps us in the matrix.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting topic. And still, of course, we love to use the word identity in general, but the identity that we think we are and we have, first of all, it is super fluid and flexible, and we can decide whatever the fuck we want to be. But due to our upbringing, we don't really know about this fact. Of course, we are experimenting with different versions of ourselves, but what is like creating our identity is a specific energetic calibration, a specific code, specific, you can also say limiting belief patterns or belief patterns in general of how we were taught to do and see things. This all makes up identity. And also, I want to take it even a little bit further. This also makes cultures, actually. Because I truly think that cultures would be different if we would truly sovereign in our own beings and in our own lives. There were a lot of like cultural things that wouldn't exist. So like this is like the biggest span basically of the identity, the matrix identity that we are carrying. We are carrying like, of course, as a collective, and then it creates cultures basically.
Can you give an example?
Yeah, for certain nations, certain people.
Yeah. Can you give an example for what is like a symptom in a culture?
Like the first thing for me that comes to mind is religions in general. Like I feel like how religions, not wanting to say that all religions are bad, but religion for me like is a symptom of like keeping identities and keeping people. I'm trying to find the English word. Basically, making people and groups of people heterogenic in a way, you know, making them think the same, making them feel the same, making them feel also shame around certain things, making them like seeing themselves like in a bad way because they do certain things. So these elements, like I feel like they are like these cultural aspects that play with lower emotions, like for guilt and shame, like is a big one, I think. And like these then are carried like throughout generations and generations and then generations, because as we are going on and growing as or evolving as humanity, and a new generation is coming in, the narrative like is evolving as well around those emotions, and the stories around those are evolving as well. And I think this is an example that creates really, really complex energetic codes that are entrained in the human system. And even though you are not brought up religiously, but maybe your ancestors were, you're still carrying these codes subconsciously. So this is a pattern energetically that I see that is really strong to dissolve, because it is like really, really sneaky energetically. And yeah, so religion for me is a big thing that I think would be completely different if we were all self-sovereign.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think all of the images in our culture that we think we should be. So I'm even thinking of like this girl boss mentality, for example, you know, something that seems so simple or just basic, but you know, the moment where you feel like, okay, this is the image, or this is what it looks like to be a boss, or this is what it looks like to have a business. This is such an, like, it is so subtle, because it's just an image that we consume all of the time without really thinking about the meaning of it, or what does it truly mean, for example, to run a business, that we take it on subconsciously on a level that is difficult for us to reach. You know, it's not even just, you know, what you talked about, the generational things where you feel like, okay, of course it has a big imprint on us just throughout generations, throughout time, but even in our culture, because we consume a lot of media and images in a subconscious state, they get imprinted on a level where we don't even realize. So even if you don't really resonate with the girl boss image and mentality, still it is imprinted on some level that this is what it looks like, for example, to be successful or to run a business and so on. And there are so many different images. This is what it looks like to be a mother. This is what it looks like to be in a romantic relationship. And I mean, there are so many imprints of drama in love, you know, like very toxic imprints that we just learn through TV and stuff like that. And yeah, so when you just open your mind, for those who are listening, to all of the imprints that you receive in your culture, where you feel like, this is how I should be, this is what it looks like, this is what I need to be in order to, you realize, oh, that's an imprint, that's not me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love all those examples. And I think there are numerous ones like this. Like like now that you open the field, like so many things are coming where you really feel like, yes, 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 yes. And I think the strongest one also is the topic of motherhood, like womanhood and motherhood, like one of the strongest topics, right?
Yeah.
And also like in my work, when I channel spirit babies, when they come through, like it is really interesting to see all those little patterns that make up our culture and our culture, like identity, also our identity around being a woman and around being or becoming a mother. Like, for example, the stupidest little thing, like, oh, it's better to birth your baby early on in life and not too late in your 30s. Like those things are just not true. Like energetically, like from the things I channel, I know it's just not true, but still, like it is the strong belief in every single one of us. I think a lot of women also know this, like when they're in their 30s, not having babies yet, and like the people around us are like, oh, but it is really late for you. You maybe, like, you know, your inner clock is ticking. Maybe you should you should hurry a little bit. Like those tiny little things, you know, that are actually, they're just wrong. I don't know else how to say it. They're just wrong. And those like belief system and patterns like run throughout all of us human beings. Not to say that we are free from this, like we all have this, but it's our responsibility to be aware of them, detect them, and deconstruct them.
Yeah. And I think the timeline is such an interesting thing, because we, you know, often when you first get into, for example, timeline jumping or just going into your self-development, I see that there is often this motivation to actually work on yourself to meet the deadline, to meet the perceived timeline. You know, for example, you need to be a mother by 30, you need to be there by da-da-da. So you get this thing of, oh my God, I need to change my life so that I can be within this construct of what time should be in my life, the cultural narrative of what a perfect life looks like by age, da-da-da. Yeah, but it's just a construct, and it's not even just like the construct of time in general, where you feel like you know, time is moving past, but there's also this layer on top of time, or a perception of time that is the cultural narrative of time, of how time is supposed to pass, or where you should be at one point in time, and so on. And I had this really strong set point in my own life at 28, where I felt like at 28, because I finished school at 17. So I was always thinking of like 10 years ahead in the future. I will have kids, I will be married, I will be like settled in my career, and da-da-da. And of course, I didn't follow my career path that I had set out to do. So I did something completely else. But I felt, leading up to my 28th birthday, that there's such a weight on where I should be in life at that point. And when I really deconstructed all of that, funnily enough, I think a lot of things happened in my life. For example, that I met my now fiance. When I let go of that, I actually met him like 3 days before my 28th birthday, and like a month later he proposed. So, you know, when I let go of the pressure of time and the narrative that I had built up around one set point in time, actually things were able to fall into place because I wasn't holding on anymore. And our whole perception of time is so warped as a culture. And the first thing is to really deconstruct the cultural narratives that we hold, and the pressures that we hold around time, to even get to the point where you can even play with time in the way that you do when you timeline jump, because you can meet time where it is, and also the essence of time as, like, you know, for me, the essence of time is much more related to the potential of every single moment than the construct of linear time. So it goes beyond linear time when I really tap into the essence of time. And this is only available once you have let go of the other constructs that are limiting your perception on time.
Yeah, totally. And I think it all again comes down to this identity we were talking about, like just allowing it to dissolve and to fall away.
Yeah.
Like even like just trying and starting, I think it's also a process to learn this. It's not happening from one day to another. It can, of course, not saying that it's not possible, but also allowing ourselves to give ourselves time to deconstruct ourselves and the image that others were projecting onto us our whole life, that we were thought it's true about us, when in reality, like, we are completely different, and we are also allowed to not be relatable, to not be understood by everyone. We can like be whatever and do whatever we want, basically, like with our expression, I mean. And yeah, and just like with this, being present in the moment, just being and allowing, as you said, all those multiple possibilities be there, and then move from this point onwards.
I'm so curious, what was a moment for you that was a big timeline jump that really impacted you?
Good question. Like, I feel I had so many already. Actually, I was thinking about this, like about my timeline jumps. There are actually so many, and also a lot of them are really subtle. This is what I said before, when it just feels calm in your nervous system and you feel like, okay, this is true, this is really aligned. And then you're unlocking this new reality, and the calmness just like moves through your system. And because I was thinking about this, I thought, oh, wow, I had really so many timeline jumps already. But for me, and it is different for every person that I also observe in my clients. For me, the biggest timeline jumps I'm always doing in relationships, in romantic relationships. Like for me, those are always the biggest catalyst for a change. And I know it can be different for every person. For some person, it's family. For some persons, it's like the work environment, like can be anything. But for me, the most like impactful circumstances are always romantic relationships. And yeah, basically every romantic relationship that I had was like the biggest opportunity for me to jump.
And what was the first relationship like where you consciously decided to jump?
Actually, it was also my really first relationship, like the first long one that I had. And it was almost 5 years. And it was just a subtle thing, but I was moving, like I was graduating from school, and I was like deciding for university and a place to live. Like, where do I move towards to? Because I really wanted to get out of where I was at this time. And of course, then it is like, okay, but when I move, of course, I have to leave this relationship behind. But I really had this feeling, no, I have to do this for myself. I'm moving, and I'm choosing the location that is the furthest away from where I am right now. Also, not having this opportunity going back and forth, having long distance. And it maybe seem like right now, when people are listening, it can feel like silly and small, but those small little things can make the biggest timeline jumps, because I was freeing myself of this old reality that I felt trapped in, that I outgrown for so many months already, but I had to stay because to finish school. Now in retrospect, I know it's not true. I could have done whatever. But at this point, I was thinking, no, I have to stay, I have to finish. And like, I was desperate to leave the reality I've outgrown already. I think this for me was a jump. And also, like, when you're such a young age, like 18, and you didn't really know otherwise, this is a big thing, of course, like going on your own out into the world and leaving everything behind. Like literally I left all of my friends behind, my family, and like the partner I had at this time.
And what part of you do you feel you gained access to when you changed or when you made that move?
For me, like, it's also always a really strong factor. Like, my self-esteem is increasing massively, always. Like, I feel like I'm expanding so much. I start to radiate so much more energy. I'm getting so much more self-confident. And this is also always a sign for me. Oh, okay, I see myself more clearly than I had before. I feel myself more clearly, and I express myself more clearly. And yeah, I moved into this new version of myself. And also finding new friends, a new circle, moved with the people that had the same speed, that are perceiving the world the same way, that were looking into the same direction.
Yeah.
It's really nice, actually. Like, I really love this feeling of just expansion.
Yeah.
Like, after you you've decided and you moved and you feel calm, and like then the magic is unfolding from this point on. I really love it so much.
I mean, I had a similar moment of the timeline jump when I also left a 6-year relationship, and it was right. So I finished university and I stayed with him, and then I started my own business. And the moment I started my own business, even before, when I finished school, it started like really growing apart, and I already felt like this reality doesn't fit me anymore. This partner doesn't fit me anymore. And then when I started my business, it just became so obvious. I didn't have any other choice, but I still like really held on because I was so afraid of what will happen when I choose to leave. You know, I was living with him, and I also felt like at that time I couldn't fully support myself financially yet with my business. So it felt like I am leaping into the unknown and I don't even know what is happening. And the moment I decided, it was like such a clear decision. And after that, the magic really unfolded. It was like you leap into the unknown and life catches you. It's like you fall in love and you are caught in love. It's when you move with that feeling of this is my truth, this is my alignment, and I'm choosing life. I feel like for me, it has so much to do with like really choosing to live fully in my potential, you know, not limiting myself to settle into a reality, into a comfort zone that I know doesn't serve my fullest and highest potential. I'm choosing life, and I'm choosing life right now. And that moment, you know, everything opened up. Within 2 weeks, I found a part-time job. I found a new place to live. People showed up for me and supported me that I didn't even think were even like still part of my reality. You know, everything just conspired in my favor. Yeah, this is always my experience. And the other way I love to play with this is with the identity, to just really choose an identity to grow into. I studied interior architecture, so I always called myself like an interior architect, a designer. And at some point I was like, actually, this identity really limits me in my self-perception. So I'm going to call myself a creator. And then at some point I noticed like I'm still limiting myself when I call myself a creator. I'm an artist. And suddenly, you know, with just the way I call myself, things opened up. So when I started to call myself a creator, I started a podcast. When I started to call myself an artist, I started to write poetry again. And so on. Or when I started to really embrace like I am a channel, also so much more opened up for me. And just in claiming this is who I know myself to be, I know it already, I just need to embrace it more. It changes so much. So it sometimes even is like an internal decision of change, of self-perception, instead of an outside decision that other people need to know about. And I love to say that to my clients, you know, you don't need to tell people about your decisions. You can just choose for yourself and see what happens. Sometimes it's easier to have a secret and change in secrecy or in privacy, basically, than to do it outwardly. And then from that place on, so many things can ripple out as well.
I love it so much. I really got goosebumps listening to it. It is so beautiful. And I think it's also like the perfect example of that we are multidimensional beings. We don't have to be stuck in like one version forever. Like the versions that we are feeling that wants to come through are just like coming to be lived out. And maybe it's just a day, maybe it's just a week, maybe it's 5 years, and then it's time for something new. And just also allowing ourselves and giving ourselves the space to just fully express whatever the fuck we want, and not thinking, ooh, this maybe causes friction with the other version I was projecting outwards. Who cares? Just like we have to do whatever we feel like, because we also have so many past life imprints. We get so much future input. Like, of course, everything is happening simultaneously, but there's so much happening energetically, and this wants to be expressed. And the beauty of this world is we have the power to make it physical. Like it can be a material thing. It can be something tangible. It can be something that we physically share with others. And I think this is so beautiful, and we should make use of it and just play around, and not just for for the goal of making money off of it or building a business, but just sometimes to be silly, to play around, just to try things and just to enjoy it, enjoy life, as you said before, and living it like to its full potential with everything that we have within us. And also what you said, like with claiming this identity or this version, it unlocks so much new things also, because then we access like so much innate gifts and skills we had no clue about that we have this in us. And I think this in itself is so liberating and is like making us feel so like big in a way that we can like tap into our soul's essence. This feeling like when you've done something like this and you feel all of a sudden somehow taller and filling out your body completely, like energetically, because your soul is allowed to shine. And I think like everybody should experience this and give themselves more freedom to explore.
Yeah. Yeah. And part of it is holding the contradiction of life, holding the contradiction of what it means to embody the whole human spectrum. I love to think about it like we all hold the whole human spectrum within. We are everything. And then our soul decides like, which part of everything do I want to play with today? Mm-hmm. And, part of it is contradicting. It is like a multitude of multifaceted way of living life. And there is no one thing that you are, but you are everything. And as soon as you open that up and then define it a little bit so that you know what you are playing with right now, life gets to be a playground. It's so fun. So even if it feels serious in the moment where you feel like I'm outgrowing my comfort zone, everything doesn't fit anymore, it gets to be fun.
Yes, totally. And also like seriousness is also part of the game, it's all part of the game. And it's just like different states of energy that we are finding ourselves in. And I think it sometimes helps to have this meta perspective. It takes the charge out of the situation and brings us out of this victim mode, because like every frictionless state we are in, like when the outer circumstances are like so pressing and it feels so tight and you feel like, I don't know what to do. Everything like feels completely out of hand right now. It is just like a different state of experiencing life in this moment. And it doesn't mean that we've done something wrong. Not at all. It's just we're finding ourselves in this situation. It wants to teach us something. It wants to bring us to somewhere we are supposed to be. So also like playing with those situations and not trying to escape or trying to bypass, but also having the capacity from our nervous system also to sit in those situations and being able to hold the energy even when the circumstances are not the best right now.
To tie it all a little bit into the perspective of the future that we talked about in the beginning, how do you feel timelines tie into the shifts of consciousness that we are moving through? Or maybe even what would you advise people to do? What is your advice right now?
Oh, that's a good question. Like the first advice I would give is just like starting to observe more closely, like being more aware, like in the present moment, like this self-assessment we were talking about, just really trying in whatever situation you are in right now, trying to find the strength to stay calm within. Like even like within a storm, basically imagining yourself like really being calm and just observing, because it's not happening to you. First of all, it's a situation your soul created by certain choices and timelines you unlocked. And in every moment, we have the power to just observe. And there's always multiple, like when you imagine yourself in the most like, I don't know, most shitty situation and you want to find your way out, like stay calm, do not react, because there are always multiple doors that we can unlock, and really like trying to observe, okay, where is the door that I actually feel the best about, and not just blindly reacting and trying, to make things better, but really having the ability to stay calm in whatever life throws at you, which does not mean it is not normal to have certain like meltdowns or crashing out. It's all totally valid. And it's really important to have those in order to be calm. Like, first of all, allow the emotions to move through you, then invite the calmness and see what is this emotion actually teaching you, what it is showing you, and access your life with this information that the emotion gave you, and then start moving. And I think like unlocking and mastering this, like completely can shift reality on an individual level, and then also it shifts on a collective level. Because what is happening on a collective level, it is so easy to make human beings panic, to make us feel fear, and then buying into whatever other systems from the outside are telling us is the right thing to do right now, whatever is the right choice right now, and what is collectively the truth. Something like this does not exist also. Like, everyone has their own truth inside, but there is nothing like as an outside thing which can state this is the truth, because truth for everyone is different. And if we master this like emotional state of staying calm, we also then access like our own truth and our own soul's wisdom, like our higher self we're allowing to come through, and we are actively start listening and moving from there. And nothing bad can happen from this state. Bad things only happen when other powers from the outside building structures and making us believe that this is the truth. Yeah, and because we are not ever taught in our life how to master our emotional state, how to sit with it, how to learn from it, how to transmute emotions, this is actually why human beings are so easily to influence with whatever systems want us to be influenced with.
This resonates completely. Like, it's about self-sovereignty and your own authority, your inner authority. And it only is available to you when you master your own emotions, because otherwise everything influences you. Yeah. Do you have anything else where you feel like this is so important to still mention before we close?
Yes, actually, there is something. It just came because I was hearing it's also important that we kind of close or acknowledge also, like, with everything that we see and perceive in our reality, there's also the unseen world, which is always helping us, always guiding us, always around us. It's our ancestors, our guardian angels, like other beings in general, like star beings. Like, there are so many things that we are not seeing, which are watching us, guiding us throughout all our life. And we can access those energies by just inviting them, like, to support us, to give us guidance, and to help us navigate those human struggles that we have in our day-to-day life. And I think it's important to know, and it's also like comforting to know that we are not in this alone, because a lot of times I hear like saying, oh, you are in this alone, nobody is coming to save you. And I feel like, yes, of course they are coming to save us. They are always around us. Like, all those interdimensional beings are always around us. We just have to be aware of it and invite them consciously to work with us. And also, always, like, the universe sends us the most angelic souls on our way when we are struggling. So we always get the help we need. And I think, like, just to be open of that and expand the awareness and just acknowledge the existence of those energies can also make a difference.
And for me, with that, it is so important, because I know that for a lot of my clients, when they first open up to the spiritual realm and the energetic, there's a lot of fear that maybe they will invite something. And, the unknown is uncertain, and the unseen is like, okay, but what if something else comes through? And I think when you are anchored in, actually, for me, the spiritual realm is just love. Everything that is coming through as these different entities, the foundation of it in the energetic is always love. It just comes out in different forms. So when you really anchor into that, this is like, I am a channel for love. I'm a vessel of love. Everything that is coming through is in not only my highest good, but the good of all. There is nothing to fear when you invite this guidance in. It is all just love. And, that's why it's so important to open your heart to it. You need to open yourself up to perceive it and to receive it and to allow it into you. And this is like it's all about love. It all is love. It is all about love. And our journey is, for me, it's like the whole journey that we are here. And even if it's a struggle and so on, it's a dance with life. And in the end, it is all leading to love. So that's it for me.
I totally love it. And I also totally agree. And like, one thing that also came to mind is what you said, like being afraid of different entities coming through. It's also a conditioning. It's a conditioning that like takes up space in culture and is ingrained into people's mind, even though they are not like they don't have anything to do with this kind of work of channeling or being a medium, but still they have this innate fear because it is conditioned, and it is a calibration that runs through their nervous system, which is also something that needs to be deconstructed. Not saying that they are not entities that are on the lower energetic spectrum. Of course they are. Of course, like everything exists. But everything exists in polarity, in duality, and we decide where we want to tap into. Like it's the same, like energetically also we have this polarity within us. So of course the energetic realm reflects the same, but it's nothing we have to be afraid of. We are only being afraid of it when we are even afraid of our own darkness and of our own shadows. So if we can be cool with that, sit with that, work with that, then there's nothing we have to be afraid of energetically.
Yeah. All right. So I'm asking you 3 questions to close again. The first is, what do you see as your role in bringing this desired reality in? How do you guide and support others? And how can people find and work with you?
All right. So my role on this planet clearly is to open the perspective to the higher timelines that are available to the individual, like to other human beings, unlocking their full potential, giving them direction, and just basically pushing them onto their highest timeline to finally share the gifts they're meant to share in this world.
Mm-hmm.
And how do I do that? I have one-on-one containers. It's called soul alignment sessions. And in those sessions, we work like with specific moments of like shifting into a new timeline, creating a new life, being on those crossroads moments. And it can be anything, can be the whole life, can be just one life topic. And I work with channeling, with light code transmission to do the recalibration we talked about a lot during this podcast. And to stabilize the nervous system for this new reality to unlock and finally do the timeline jump. And how people can find me. The easiest thing is just go to Instagram. It's Caro Marx. And there you'll find everything that you need.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much for this conversation. I am beaming. I am so excited. I could continue on talking forever. It's like, So
I love it.
Yeah, and I think we covered so much with timelines and the future and self-sovereignty and decision-making and so on. I'm really excited for everybody to listen. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much too. I loved it. And I'm beaming as well.
All right. That was it. Such an incredible conversation. Thank you so much to Caro Marx for joining me for this conversation. And you can check her out on Instagram @_Caro Marx and check out her soul alignment sessions for you to really get that guidance when you feel in between, when you feel like your reality doesn't fit you anymore and you need to change something, when you feel like there are these stuck old codes that she talks about and you need to recalibrate and move into a different reality. I am so excited for you to move through this process and for you to really anchor into a future that you desire, because every single one of us that goes through the process of reclaiming sovereignty and your own agency in creating reality, when every one of us does it, we collectively change our consciousness, our collective consciousness, and the future we create together. If you want to dive deeper into my own work of mystic philosophy and mastering the energetics, you can go to my website, thecreativewaters.com, and specifically I want to invite you to join the Creative Waters Way. More on that another time. Until then, all my love. See you. Bye.